It's December the 9th, 1941, and a line of Blenheim bombers roars to life at Butterworth Airfield, Malaysia. At the front is squadron leader Arthur Pongo Scarf. But while they're still taking off, a transmission comes in.
Bandits to the north.
High in the sky, dozens of Ki-27 fighter bombers approach in formation, each carrying 4 25-kilogram bombs under their wings. Then even more Ki-27s come in for a lower attack. Scarf orders everyone to get airborne as fast as they can. The Blenheim accelerates down the runway as the Japanese fighters pounce upon the bombers. Flight Sergeant Cyril Rich opens fire with the bomber's dorsal turret against the swarm of enemies. The British aircraft lifts into the sky as explosions pound the earth behind them. Men watch in horror as the Ki-27s attack the Blenheim still on the ground. Bombs and bullets are tearing them apart. Desperately, they're all hoping to see other planes take off. But the men are crestfallen to see that no others make it. The attention of the Japanese swarm turns towards the lone Blenheim, circling around the battlefield. They charge Scarf's plane, dumping a burst of bullets into the fuselage. But the Ki-27s are only fitted with 2 7.7mm machine guns. They're just as weak as the Blenheim's dorsal turret. The impacts ping and pierce straight through the British bomber, fortunately doing little damage. The Japanese pilots return to their mission and turn to the burning Blenheims on the ground. And so, the 3 crew aboard the Blenheim are left there, alone, having lost their entire squadron before their eyes. What do we do, Pongo? We're continuing with our mission. Navigator Paddy Calder and rear gunner Cyril Rich are stunned by his answer, but they don't object. They have a job to do. Over 100 kilometers later, the lone bomber ventures into occupied Thailand, and it doesn't take much longer for a pair of Ki-27s to spot them one more time.
Bandits.
An orchestra of gunfire resumes its play across the Thai skies as the Ki-27s turn in for the attack.
Look out, they're turning.
The Japanese pepper the British aircraft with volleys of gunfire. Rich replies with his Vickers, forcing the enemy to weave and turn in desperate evasive actions. Some of his fire lands, but it does little. The fighters come back again and again, dumping hundreds of bullets into the plane, as Scarf desperately attempts to evade. Then, the target appears. Singora Airfield. The Blenheim prepares for the drop, and Calder takes aim with the bomb sight. Scarf has to keep the bomber level for Calder to aim, making themselves an even easier shot for the Japanese hunters, who are still on their tail. The clacks of bullet strikes intensify, placing the entire crew on edge. The men are shaken as the hits rip through the plane. Sirens blare on the ground, and the Japanese airmen rush for their aircraft, scrambling to intercept the lone British plane. From the Blenheim, Scarf sees the fighters take off, one by one, adding themselves to a growing swarm. Just a little more. Through the sight, a beautiful image reaches Calder's eyes. A squadron of Ki-27s parked on a taxiway. The crosshairs gradually wander over top the enemy, and Calder pulls the trigger. The bombs are released, and they disappear through the open hatch. They're away! Get us out of here! Scarf doesn't need to be told twice, and he immediately banks hard for home. The bombs crash into the line of parked aircraft and annihilate them with thunderous explosions. But they have no time to celebrate as Rich witnesses a swarm of enemies heading straight for them.
They're coming.
A flurry of tracers streak across the sky and rip through the bomber's fuselage. Rich fires back, but the enemy swarms all around, flying past the Blenheim and revealing even more enemies behind. There's just too many of them. Short of options, Scarf pushes the aircraft into a steep dive. The bomber falls, accelerating to absolute top speed, with a flurry of fighters hot on their tail. The dense jungle beneath fills the windshield, growing larger and larger. But Scarf pulls up at the last possible second, racing away just feet above the jungle. The Ki-27s are poor divers, but they soon catch up and sweep in from above, guns blazing. Scarf turns left and right in desperate evasive actions, doing everything he can to make a shot on the aircraft's tail and engines as difficult as possible. But he has to resist the urge to turn too hard. He feels the need for speed in the desperate race for home. Behind him, Rich keeps up the fight, despite the grim odds. Even as Scarf throws the bomber around, making him lose his balance and aim, he doesn't stop firing. His volleys strike several aircraft head-on, triggering plumes of coolant or oil to pour out of the machines and forcing them to turn for home. But away from the chaotic combat, two Ki-27s have a different plan. They charge the Blenheim from the left flank, their sights square on the cockpit. Scarf barely sees them coming before a blur of bullets punches straight through the aircraft's thin metal body. His arm is shredded, and he's hit across his back as he hunches over in a vain attempt for cover. The injuries rip his focus away from flying, and the bomber starts to head for the trees. A horrified Calder pulls Scarf back upright, and the pilot stares down their approaching doom. He instinctively pulls on the stick, just in time, the bomber escaping a fiery demise by fractions of a second. Scarf keeps on flying despite the brutal injuries, but he feels himself going into shock. Dizzy and weak, he desperately concentrates on flying as the sounds of battle fade into the distance. A deep fatigue washes over him as he operates the stick.
Come on, Pongo.
Stay with me! Calder lifts him back upright on his seat. Scarf takes back control with renewed determination. Before them it's nothing but jungle as far as the eye can see. But then...
Look! They're turning back!
Rich and Calder break into celebration. We've crossed the border. The Japanese are gone. But the relief is short-lived. They still need to land. Scarf is bleeding and weakening by the minute. Neither Calder nor Rich know how to fly. He needs to bring the bird down, and fast. In the distance appears the city of Alor Setar. He would recognize it anywhere. For months, he's regularly visited the local hospital where Sally Scarf, his pregnant wife, works as a nurse. Brace for impact. He cuts the throttle as he brings the damaged plane into land. His eyes fall upon a rice field near the hospital. The Blenheim comes in and crash lands, sliding across the ground until it grinds to a halt. Rich and Calder emerge, uninjured. They drag a barely conscious Scarf and shout for help. The heroic pilot is admitted to the hospital just a few minutes later. According to letters from his wife Sally, she took part in the care of her husband. She even donated blood for him, despite her pregnancy, trying everything she could to save him. Throughout, Pongo reassured her that everything was going to be all right and told her to keep smiling. But tragically, it wasn't to be, and Arthur Scarf passed away during emergency surgery. We think his Victoria Cross belongs in a museum, but it's currently up for sale. The RAF Museum are hoping to purchase the medal to keep it on display for future generations. The clock is ticking, and they only have another week or two to raise the necessary funds. You can help by visiting the link that's on screen now, or clicking the link in the description. Thank you. Please support the channel and check out our great merch. Also, we're very excited to announce that you can now join our YouTube memberships for exclusive perks and insight into how we make our videos. Hit the join button below this video.